Fridays at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time, and it's time for all the news and updates because we got to get into what the 49ers need to do now to get over on Seattle, because we need to beat Seattle. We need to beat the NFC West foes that are upcoming, and there's 2 in a row. But there's a lot of news that's coming down that are going to make it interesting, and the 49ers are going to have to make some roster movements maybe. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Sunday is over. It's done with.
Thank God.
It's gone. We don't have to think about it. Don't have to worry about it. All right? You just move on. You focus and redirect your energy. Cutback crew, faithful. Redirect it. Redirect it into Sunday. Redirected all the angst, all the emotion. Redirected onto those sea chickens. And let's take it to them. Let's get out there in full force and be loud there in Santa Clara and make up for this last Sunday. It's going to be fun. It's going to be A-okay. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and that notification bell. That way you're notified for all of the great content this week leading up through all of this fun stuff. Let's get to the first thing on the docket, though. The first thing on the docket we got to talk about is updates on Josh Norman specifically and K'Waun Williams, because cornerback room. Quarterback watch, it's kind of a big deal in San Francisco right now with everything that happened on Sunday night. Josh Norman was in the hospital. He spent the night in the hospital coughing up blood. And you may be going, that sounds really bad. And it is. It's not great. But the status is what? And saying contusion, a lung contusion, both lungs contused?
Yeah, lung contusion from some sort of contact with the running back. I don't know if it was A.J. Dillon or Aaron Jones. I don't know which one it was. But apparently, he has suffered a contusion to both lungs and was spitting up blood. It's a crazy thing to think about. It really is. There's when it comes to these contact things, there's just nothing you can do about it. There's no training, nothing that you can do to make these things right. But it brings up questions. Kyle Shanahan says he's day to day. He was actually in team meetings, which this guy plans on playing. That's the one thing I'll say about Norman. This guy, he's about it. Like, he's about football. He's about getting out there and playing hard. And he's played very well. He played very well at Philadelphia. He was playing good against Green Bay. I think that him being out was very pivotal in this game. I think it did make a difference down the stretch. We could have used him, and unfortunately, he just wasn't healthy. So now we have questions if he's going to be healthy, and big questions because K'Waun Williams is dealing with the calf. And K'Waun Williams, according to Kyle Shanahan, is going to be out a few weeks, Alex. So now we've got Norman possibly out against Seattle, which I would love to have him against DK because he's a bigger body who knows how to play physical.
Oh, yeah.
And is very comfortable playing in his own. And now you have K'Waun, who is normally your nickel guy. So what do the 49ers do now at the nickel corner spot, especially if you have both of these guys out?
It's crazy to think. It's crazy to think about. The K'Waun stuff is just frustrating because it seems like this, and this is something we joked about in the offseason with K'Waun, is this is a guy who tends to miss a few games. So when we made the move for Diamador Lenore, it's like, oh, okay, Demo, that's your guy in case K'Waun goes down. He got time to get ready and get comfortable, and then he ended up, excelling on the outside, and it's like, oh, he's playing on the outside, and who's going to play behind K'Waun? I don't know. It's looking like it would be Demo right now. Would be the guy that would step in the slot, especially if you have Josh Norman able to go and ready to go, and it seems like he wants to go. So the question just becomes is, what direction do the 49ers want to go with this and with this cornerback room and who they want to run with? I agree with you. If you can get Josh Norman out there, man, I feel really good with Emmanuel Mosley. I feel really good with Josh Norman playing physical one-on-one, or even just if they want to go zone. I would prefer, if there's no Tyler Lockett, if they confirm anything, and I haven't read any confirmation on Lockett, what's going on with his knee yet, if he's out and he's not playing for a significant amount of time, just make Wayne beat you, or whoever the other wide. Make someone else beat you. Don't let DK Metcalf do it. Really focus in and dial in there in that pass game. Make it really hard for Russell Wilson to get comfortable and go to the guy that he wants to go to deep over the middle of the field, comeback routes on the outside the numbers. Like, just focus in on it. If we have both guys, I feel great, because then I don't feel like, hey, you need to just have one of these guys follow this dude around for the whole game. You got 2 guys on each side. What I don't want, though, is a situation where we have to roll with Demo out there, very smaller, not as physical, going up against a guy like DK. That's not going to go well for him. We saw what Devontae Adams was able to do to him. DK isn't as fast as Devontae Adams, but he's bigger. He's bigger than Devontae Adams. He's a more physical wideout at times. So I would prefer if we had the vet presence there. The good news is, though, right? We got some reinforcements on the way.
Yeah.
So you don't have to necessarily worry about too much, because I think if Norman's not going, Demo's probably playing on the outside, which means you're going to have probably Dante Johnson playing on the interior in the nickel slot. But you got Devontae Harris coming back from IR this week. He's going to be activated and put back on that roster. Even better news, 51 men roster right now, which means him and Maurice Hurst are both coming off IR this week. There's no roster moves that need to be made. You don't have to make a roster move. So reinforcements on the way. Devontae Harris coming back into the fold. Is that an upgrade? Is that an upgrade anywhere on the outside of the perimeter? I feel it might be an upgrade over Dante Johnson, but I haven't seen enough to know that for sure.
Yeah, it's a big question. I think watching in the little bit that we saw of him in training camp, because there wasn't a whole lot. He came late. He looked pretty good. He looked the part, and he was a guy that could play inside and out. I think the bigger question is, where's Drake Kirkpatrick? Can Drake Kirkpatrick, be that guy to fill in for Norman? Because I think there is a real issue if you have somebody like DK Metcalf against Deommodore Lenoir. Mm-hmm. It's nothing against Deommodore Lenoir. It's just right now you got a rookie that's not as physical as DK Metcalf and definitely not as big. So right away he's open every single time he goes out. So you need somebody that can play this guy tough, slow him up. You have someone like Drake Kirkpatrick and Josh Norman who have played against him before. So they understand what DK can do. They understand, how he wants to run his routes and his leverage and all of that. So I think those guys would make more sense. The same with Harris, because Harris is an experienced guy. We can never have a situation, absolutely ever, where we have Dante Johnson on DK Metcalf. This is not a good situation for the 49ers. If this happens, you better have more than one safety ready to go. I'm being a little over the top on this because DK can beat you like that. So they're going to have to figure out what they want to do. But you're right. They got to learn from last week's mistakes. They got to learn from not letting something happen where one guy can beat you. Devontae Adams beat the 49ers, him and Aaron Rodgers. Don't let Russell Wilson and DK do that. If Josh Norman's there, yeah, I feel more comfortable with Norman. I really do. And then after that, I think the next guy I feel more comfortable with is Drake Kirkpatrick. I think the best scenario for the 49ers this week is to put Deommodore Lenoir in the slot. Let him play in there and feel comfortable. The only thing is, this is just being realistic, is it seemed to me that Dante Johnson was playing better in the slot than Deommodore Lenoir was. Whether that is just familiarity, somebody that's more comfortable with the scheme playing in there. They didn't try to put Demo in there until late in the year, late in the camp, where they decided that they were going to kind of roll with him inside and let him learn. So I do have some questions because he got caught up inside on the goal line with Devontae Adams running inside on the motion and then back out. Those are things you can't let happen because Russell Wilson will absolutely pick you apart. And the 49ers are going to have opportunities to win, all kinds of individual battles in this game, but you can't do it if you're going to lose certain situations like that. So I have some questions about personnel and how they plan on using them. A lot of it depends on what happens with Josh Norman. But it's nice to at least know that Emmanuel Mosley, if needed, could travel around with DK Metcalf. He's not going to always garner the results that you want, but he's going to be there battling, and he's going to do the best that he possibly can.
That's all you can ask. It really is. It truly is. I feel a combination of the two on the interior may be the route they end up going. Certain situations and things of that nature may be the best way to go because while both guys have some strengths, both guys have a lot of weaknesses and holes. And so if you can find a way to, put them in situations where those weaknesses necessarily can't be exploited, makes it a little bit easier. Problem is that when you go bunch sets and things of that nature, you can't really hide Demo, especially if he's not understanding the concept and, the route combinations and his responsibility on certain types of looks and certain types of motions. You got to give the Packers credit. You really do. And I saw a lot of Packers fans in here all week, especially the recap show and the reaction show. Oh, I'm just here for the salt. I don't know what salt. There's really no salt. There isn't. You guys came out with a good game plan. You took advantage of the things you needed to do. You went with your strengths, and the Niners didn't take those things away. When you're a football team and you have strengths and areas in which you are really, really good in certain aspects of the game, and you go out there and try and make sure that you create those matchups and take advantage of those situations, and you do it, really nothing to do other than tip your hat. You did what you were supposed to do, and we didn't do enough to take those things away from you. LaFleur did everything that he needed to do and schemed up the game enough to get his guys in positions to make plays. Devontae Adams made plays consistently. Aaron Jones made plays when he needed to make plays. Robert Tonyan made plays when he needed to make plays. Valdez Scantling made plays when he needed to make plays. Alan Lazard made plays when he needed to make plays. That's what you're trying to do with your team and their strengths and their weaknesses. The 49ers now, a lot of strengths and a lot of weaknesses in certain areas. Find a way to scheme up your strengths, put guys in positions to have success, and put your weaknesses, the areas in which you're struggling, try and find ways to give them help and provide them help where you can. Sometimes that's blitzing, sometimes that's a safety over the top. There's a lot of ways to get it done. The good news is you've gotten away with it for the first couple of weeks. You didn't get away with it in week 3. So now you know what areas you need to focus in on and the areas that you need to try and, provide that extra bit of help or scheme a little bit differently that you don't get taken advantage of in certain situations in certain areas of the field.
I mean, do you think that they really got away with it in the first 2 weeks, or is it the fact that maybe the same guys weren't out there?
It's a little bit of, I feel it's a little bit of both.
Because if you take K1 out of Philadelphia and out of Detroit, the game is probably different.
Definitely
because
different.
You have to switch your game plan up.
I
think a lot of times you go into with a certain game plan. This is both offensive and defensively, and we've seen this happen to Kyle Shanahan in the past over the last couple of years. Deebo Samuel's heavy in part of the game plan. All of a sudden, or him or George Kittle go out, and all of a sudden the 49ers offense almost seems like it's playing with one arm behind their back. I think that's what happened with the defense. They had a certain game plan. Whether it was going to work or not is to be determined. But you don't know because 3 snaps into the game, K1 Williams is out of the game. And so it changes the way that you're going to play because now you had a guy that you feel comfortable, whether he's in man or zone, locking down that position, and he's gone. You take one of those pieces off the chessboard. I don't know about you, but if I lose one of those pieces early in the game, it could really change how I plan on attacking the board. Right. So I think that sometimes it gets thrown into flux, these game plans. And unfortunately, that is what happened in this game. Because it wasn't just him, it was compounded. Because within a couple more drives, out's Josh Norman. Josh Norman's gone. And then now you're playing without 2 corners that you were counting on. And I think it does change the game. And for DeMeco Ryans, was it a good game plan that what they were trying to do to Devontae Adams? It doesn't appear so. But we don't know what the overall game plan was when having those other 2 guys because, like we've both said, Norman played well.
He did.
And there would have been a lot of situations where you would have had Devontae Adams on Norman. And we saw Norman playing Devontae Adams nice and close and tight. And the way that he's a veteran, he gets away with a little bit of the pull and the tug and all that sometimes. So it's an interesting thing. It really is. And I'm wondering where they go from here. But now they have a full week to prepare. Like they understand now, I don't have K1 Williams, so I can adjust. I know that they have, DK, so I can adjust to that. So I think that he's going to get an understanding. Does he need to get it? Did he need to get his feet underneath him a little bit after those things happen? Yes. But if you look at the game, he settled down from DeMeco Ryans, calling this defense. Quarters 2 to 3, the Packers didn't do a whole lot offensively.
No, but people forget that. People are forgetting the fact that quarters 2 and 3, the Packers offense stalled, essentially. There was not a lot going on. There were situations where, Devontae Adams had the drop in the second quarter in which they were driving down the field, but it was a good call by DeMeco Ryans. He had Fred Warner and Al-Shaair sitting there in zone coverage. Al-Shaair is breaking out into the flats, and Aaron Rodgers is having to put the ball in a window where if he leads, he tries to lead Devontae Adams in the window a little bit more. Fred Warner is right there and able to potentially get his hands on it or lay a big hit. And he's got a corner and a safety coming down on top of Devontae Adams, so he has to put the ball behind Devontae a little bit in space. He's expecting Devontae to sit a little sooner than he does. So just a miscommunication there. But again, as a defense, those are the types of situations you're trying to create. Quarterback has to be on the same page with wideout. Wideout has to sit in the zone at the right time and recognize where the window is in the zone. Quarterback the timing has to be on, and when there's pressure coming, and there was pressure in that first half, and I keep seeing people saying, well, the time to throw for Aaron Rodgers was really low, and also Aaron Rodgers, on most of his throws, the average for 49ers players, yards distance between them was about 4.2 yards. Yes, because Aaron Rodgers was getting the ball out in under 3 seconds. When you're double teaming your 2 interior guys on the top, and then you're sending, pass rush around the edge, wide 9 pass rush from the outside towards the quarterback, and he's catching the snap, putting his back foot in the ground and getting rid of the football. How close do you expect them to be?
Well, especially because they're double teaming Nick Bosa as well, whether they were chipping him with a receiver on the outside or helping inside with a running back.
And Bosa was still the closest guy on average to Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, 100%.
So think about, really, like fans, think about that. Faithful, Cutback, think about that. There were plenty of times where Bosa was getting essentially laid out at the top of the screen, 5 yards behind where Aaron Rodgers was in space. And he still was underneath that 4.2. I think he was like 3.8 was his actual number for the game on all of his pass rushes if you average them out.
Yeah.
So Nick Bosa was consistently applying pressure with 2 to 3 guys occupying and looking at him in space. The pass rush would have been there. We just didn't do enough to take away the first read. If we took more of the first read away from Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Rodgers wasn't able to catch, plant, and throw to the guy he wanted to throw to in space, this game potentially plays out differently. Now, is that a DeMeco Ryans problem? Is that a corner's problem? Or is it just a you tip your hat to Matt LaFleur, and he dialed up the right things at the right time so they could execute those things. All those things could be true.
It's all of them. It is. You got a couple with sometimes it was a D'Amico Ryans thing, sometimes it was a DB thing, a corner injury thing, and then sometimes LaFleur schemed it up. Maybe not so much LaFleur as Aaron Rodgers.
Possibly that too.
Just executing at a high level. I mean, sometimes there were some of those plays that it's just special stuff. And those guys were making some plays, him and Adam. So you got to tip your hat at moments. But I thought that to say that there's something wrong with D'Amico Ryans, that the way people are kind of portraying is that he's a step down from Robert Saleh, which I think is hilarious because last week it was that he's an improvement over Robert Saleh. The week-to-week thing is kind of crazy for me, but I think that what we need to realize is, was there problems early? Yes. Did he figure it out? Yes. And then they really played a pretty good, second half even. I thought, too, another big thing that I could take away from all this was that last year, one of the big concerns surrounding Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh was it seemed like the game plan was always great in the first half, and in the second half, they kind of fell off.
It's been the inverse.
Yeah, this year it's been the first half struggles, but the second half adjustments have been wonderful, and they've been coming out and executing at a high level and putting themselves in opportunities to win. So there is little things you can take away from it. Now all we have to do is get the first part of the game to match the second part of the game, and if we do, not so much the last 2 minutes on defense. The last 2 minutes on defense has been a struggle all year long. Sure. But the other part of it seems like the 49ers can definitely figure this out and win football games. That's one of the things about football is the best team right now is not probably going to be the best team by the end of the season.
Correct.
There's somebody right in the middle. I mean, look at Tampa Bay last year. It's somebody right in the middle, right, that's playing that they're probably going to end up being the best team. It's the wire-to-wire thing happens occasionally.
It does.
But usually there's a team that gets hot at the right time, and the 49ers just got to get healthy and hot at the right time, and then they'll have an opportunity to make something. All you're trying to do is get in the dance and then see what you can do when you get there.
True. Look, I imagine, 49ers fans feeling like the end of the world is nigh. If you guys feel this way, how do you think the Chiefs feel? I mean, they're 1-2. They're 1-2 playing from behind the eight ball.
I will guarantee you the Chiefs are not worried at all.
They're not. And this is my point. The Chiefs front office, coaching staff, players, they're not worried. They're making moves. They're going to go out. They're going out and bringing in Josh Gordon because they're going to try and shore up the wide receiver room with one guy. Defender of the Kansas City offense. Look, so they're making moves, right? They're doing the things that they feel need to be done in order to shore up the room, but they're not. There's no panic there. If you think Patrick Mahomes is sitting there going, we lost 2 games in the first 3 games. The season's over. It's finished. Are there some Kansas City fans who are saying that? Absolutely, there are Kansas City fans freaking out. Just like there's 49ers fans freaking out right now that the year is lost. It's all done. It's over, right? It's kaput. We're screwed. Kansas City has some big weaknesses with their team. Their offensive line. They made moves to bring guys in. Those moves didn't look like they're working too well because there's a lot of pressure on Patrick Mahomes right now still. So they got issues and concerns there. 49ers have issues and concerns too. I agree with every 49ers fan, everything that you've been bringing up, for the most part. The exception of let's start firing guys because we lost a football game. Other than that, I agree with a lot of the concerns. Complaining about them, fine. You can complain, you can be upset. Solutions, though, are what matters, right? How you bounce back and respond to the start or this loss or this upset and this heartbreaker is what truly matters. If we come out and drop the ball against Seattle, okay, now we got to start looking at what the heck's happening. What are the decisions being made? What is the game plan? What is everyone seeing here? Because, obviously it's not right, but you can't put the cart before the horse. Sunday has to play itself out. We got a whole week of practice. You got guys coming back. We have a team that's getting closer and closer to being healthy. It's one game. One game cannot make or break, your team in terms of your identity or defining the season for you. That can be said about, one game at the end of the season, but one game 4 weeks, 6 weeks into the season can't be the thing that breaks you. It really can't. Unless it's one of those games like last year where you lose half of your most talented players in one game. But those are few and far between. Those moments don't happen very often. It's why 2020 was so devastating, was because it all came to a head in a matter of what felt like 5 quarters. 5 quarters, and we were sitting there going, who is this team now? What is the identity of this team? This doesn't even look like the same team that we came into the season with. That's been the case for the running back room this year to an extent, and that's been the case for the cornerback room to an extent. But this this team was never built around your running back room in terms of like the names that were there. It was always built around the O-line. It was always going to be built around the D-line, and then making sure you have a quarterback back there who can put you into the right situations, get you in and out of calls, and take care of the football. Jimmy struggled a little bit with that, but he made all the plays necessary and got us into the right calls more times than not in this game against Green Bay. He's going to continue to do that. And the O-line, for the most part, is keeping him pretty well protected and pretty well clean.
The only difference between this game and the game that happened in 2019 where Seattle came in and beat us at a last-second field goal is the fact that we were 8-0 at the time. That's the difference. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, just what part of the year. That's what it feels like to me. I mean, this game is eerily similar to that. The other thing is, I mean, the 49ers, once again, in a position to win, right? You had the guy that missed the field goal because we had Robbie Gould out. But once again, injuries were a reason why we lost the football game. That was 2019. This one's eerily similar. The 49ers can bounce back. I mean, when you lose football games, it's a long season. I mean, it really is. Losing a game this early doesn't need to put anyone into panic mode. And it put people into concern mode because it reveals some weaknesses, reveals some struggles that the 49ers have. Absolutely. I mean, you saw for the first time that the offensive line was really tested as far as blitz pickup and that sort of thing. They'd seen a kind of a different approach from Detroit and Philly where they had, came a lot with their front four, and that's really what they came with. Well, this game, it was a lot of blitz. It was a lot of twists. It was a lot of confusion. And sometimes it went ahead and took advantage of the 49ers offensive line. So they're going to have to figure that out. They're going to have to work on it. But, at the same time, it's like we got to let these guys get better. I mean, there is opportunities to get better, and they can get better. So I'm looking forward to seeing the adjustments that they make, how they attack this. Definitely not going to judge any of these guys off of one game. I thought there was a lot of positive that came out of this game, just as much as there was some negative. And that's what you expect when you're coming out of a loss. I mean, whether you win or lose a game like that, you have to look yourself in the mirror and realize I had 2 turnovers. If I wouldn't have had 2 turnovers in this game, we probably would have won. And every guy can take something away from this. And if you didn't feel a punch in the gut when you lost this football game, then you shouldn't be playing football anymore. You don't care. But I guarantee you, these guys are going to rally. This is a nice, tight-knit group that's going to come out there and get after it. So I'm curious to see what Kyle comes up with, and I'm curious to see what DeMeco Ryans comes up with, because I have a gut feeling that Kyle Shanahan is pissed off, and I'm not sure that anyone wants to see a pissed off Kyle Shanahan, because I think that he really feels like they should have won this football game, that they should have dominated this football game, and because they didn't, he's not going to leave any stone unturned to make sure that they don't ever suffer a loss like that.
Correct. That's what you have to do. That's your job as a coach.
Yeah.
Right. Is self-evaluate first. I thought last night his post-game presser, he said 2 comments that were accurate, and also where his head was at, where his mental was at. He said first and foremost that he thought Jimmy played well enough, and he thought he played good enough. He thought the team at times executed and did the things that they needed to do. And then he also said, but we definitely, basically the comment was the extent of team overall's got to play a better football game. That's twofold for me. One, acknowledging that there were things that worked and things that went well, and his quarterback play, he liked the things that he saw, but also we just didn't do enough. And that's what it felt like all night long. It felt like there wasn't enough done. And when there's not enough done or something doesn't get executed as a coach, the first thing you do is go back to the drawing board, self-evaluate. What did I do? What did we do? What calls did I make? What decisions did I make? What positions did I put us in that worked and didn't work? And where can I fix those things? You can fix those things. If they're a you thing, you can fix them. That takes the pressure off the team. Because, hey, that's on me. I can fix those things, put us in a better situation, and maybe there's a different outcome. But if you watch the film, you go through it, and you're like, no, we did exactly what I wanted to do, and you guys just didn't execute, and now you got a bigger problem. And I don't think that's the actual case. I think Kyle knows this. I think DeMeco Ryans knows this. I think the team knows this. There were times they didn't execute and didn't do the things they were supposed to, and there were times that they could have made better decisions or put the team maybe in better positions. I think when we get a chance to watch the All-22 film, we'll have a better idea of where those situations may have come, or if the game plan was flawless and it was just total bomb of an execution. You never quite know. The good news is, though, for the 49ers is we survived. We survived a not great performance, a not clean performance, almost came out of it unscathed in the loss column anyway. And now we have a chance to take this loss, take this character building moment, build the character that's needed, learn the lessons that need to be learned, and come out and stick it to Seattle. And I'm just getting a thing that's coming up across my screen right now. It looks like Tyler Lockett escaped any sort of serious injury. I don't know how, because I was convinced. I texted you immediately. That's an ACL. He's done. I've seen that injury happen more times than not. Foot getting caught on the ground, leg going one way, ankle going the other. It almost always ends up in an ACL. For Tyler Lockett, it doesn't. And the belief is that he's going to be good to go for this game.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. That's usually what happens when it comes to Tyler Lockett. He usually shows up against the 49ers.
My Lord.
So the 49ers are going to have a lot of things that they're going to have to figure out in this game. They're going to have to take away those two guys.
They're going to get tested now.
Yeah. Oh, well, they were going to get tested anyways. Because DK is still DK.
Accurate.
But now it just changes the way the 49ers have to handle it, and they have to scheme it up. The good news is they understand what opponent they're going against. It's not like Seattle's going to throw anything out there that they're not ready for, not used to. But you got to go in there and win this football game now, and there's going to be a lot of cool matchups to watch and a lot of exciting things to talk about over the time. But let's see how they end up doing it. Let's see how DeMeco Ryans attacks going after Russell Wilson. Last year, Robert Saleh had a lot of success bringing the blitz early and often. I'm really confused Russell Wilson for the first 3 or 4 drives of the game, and then it seemed like he would back off and Russ would be Russ and he would cook. So let's see what DeMeco Ryans does, how he approaches it, and I'm curious to see if they can get back to winning football, and if they can, I think it'll kind of quell a lot of the the problems that are going on, and it's amazing what winning can do.
I was gonna say you telling me that winning cures problems and cures issues. And...
last week I said that the 49ers needed for these 3 games they needed to come out 2-1. As long as they can beat Seattle and Arizona and come out 2-1 going into the bye, I think everyone will feel really comfortable with the 49ers. At that point, 4-1 through the first 5 games sounds pretty great to me. So
yeah, it does.
If you were going to tell me, we always talk about finding losses. We found one. Now the point is to avoid them as long as possible, and I think we have some opportunities to win because I don't think that Colts game is as pivotal and critical as it was before, because I think the 49ers can actually win that football game. So I think it's going to be interesting, but we've got some wins ahead of us, and I think 2 of them are coming up.
I hope so, man. I hope that's the case, and yeah, you're right. It's all about now finding a way to bounce back and finish out these last 2 games before this bye on a high note, moving momentum in the right direction. If you're able to take out 2 NFC West opponents heading into that bye, knowing that you're having Jeff Wilson coming back right around the corner, Jalen Hurd is ready to come back at some point in time, hopefully right around the corner. Hopefully getting K1 back at that point in time as well. And Mosley getting healthier and healthier, the defense getting healthier, Greenlaw coming back sometime, hopefully not too long after that.
It could be then. Yeah, you could actually get Wilson, Greenlaw, K1, all those guys back right after the bye.
That's 3 of your key defensive players coming back right after that bye, heading into a game against the Colts like you're talking about, and where before the season really a lot higher on the Colts than where we currently both feel now.
Yeah.
Right. And that now is looking like a much more winnable football game. So now that game, okay, well, if you're 4-1 rolling in, this is a game that we both had as the first loss of the season for the 49ers. We had them going 5-1 through those first. If you're still 5-1 coming out of that game and you beat them, all right, well, we're on track.
Yeah.
The team's still on track. It's still there. But the next 2 games are the most important ones. And now the best news is for the 49ers, and this is as a fan and as a coach, you're going to get the best version of the Seattle Seahawks. If Lockett's playing, that means there's no excuses for them. They got everything they need. They got all the pieces healthy. Everyone is in place. So if you're the 49ers and you're able to go in there not healthy without all your pieces in there and you take one out on them, okay, there's no excuses anymore. Right? There's no excuses for the Seahawks. There's no excuses for the 49ers. This team can get it done as it's currently constituted and constructed. This is a big opportunity, a big test for the team to prove it to themselves, not just to prove it to the fan base. And they're not doing things they're not trying to prove anything to us. They're trying to entertain us, right? They're trying to win games to keep, the faithful happy and keep themselves happy because they're a good enough team. But you don't have to prove anything to us. This is for them now. This is for them, this coaching staff. You go out there and get this big win against a healthy Seattle team with all the pieces in place. This team can get it done. This team has the ability to compete and contend in the NFC West and be one of the, the top 2 teams coming out of the NFC.
Better figure out the run game.
Yep.
They better figure it out in a big way. They better figure out if Elijah Mitchell is going to be able to play or not. If Elijah Mitchell can play, which, it seems to me like they knew he was always going to be out and they were playing coy, which kind of said last week, I kind of got the feeling the way Kyle was talking, unfortunately, because they did not show a lot of confidence in Trey Sermon.
Mm-mm.
The one thing I will say, though, is Trey Sermon's game matches up better with Seattle than it did with Green Bay, about how far, how they play defense. But yeah, they need some of these other guys are going to have to step up, or Elijah Mitchell needs to be back. I think if Elijah Mitchell's back, I'll feel really confident with this run game because I have a lot of faith in him. But they do need to bridge the gap until JaMycal Hasty comes back. So this run game better get going, and then the 49ers have enough weapons. I mean, Ayuk, Debo, and George Kittle all had good games. Kyle Juszczyk had a good game. Anytime that you can spread the wealth like they did, I mean, there were opportunities for them to make catches, and they made a lot of very good contested catches. And when they had the opportunity to run after the catch, they did so. So I thought they played very good, and I thought actually Mohamed Sanu made some plays. We can talk all we want about Mohamed Sanu, and maybe a lot of people are down on him. But let's not forget, there's 2 pass interference calls against this guy in the end zone that put us on the 1 yard line. That is a stat that somebody should keep, because he's at least getting open enough to get pass interference, so he can help get touchdowns. And plus, he made a couple of nice catches in this game. So I'm gonna give him some props. So overall, the wide receiver group and these skill players, besides the running backs, minus Juice, because Juice is just Juice, but played very well. So we need more production from the running back room. But what is that running back room going to look like? I guess it's another week of questions and running back watch 2021.
Running back watch 2021 is a real thing. And look, at Mitchell, it was always day to day. Last week, it's still day to day now. Kyle basically came out and said, last week was always going to be kind of an iffy, not quite sure sort of thing. And we're always hoping we get him back for Seattle. So the hope is that he can play. If he can play, that's great for the 49ers running back room, like you just talked about and brought up, because we need it. Kyle, it's obvious Kyle does not trust Trey Sermon in any way, shape, or form. So if you don't trust Trey Sermon and you're not going to run the football, and you're going to take comments of people going like, well, Kyle Juszczyk operated as your main running back. No, he didn't. He only had 4 carries. Trey Sermon had 10. Kyle, in the theory of who had the most touches, Trey Sermon operated as your main running back. If you look at the snap counted percentage of who was out there, Kyle Juszczyk was out there, because the game plan was to throw the football. And we all know that Trey Sermon can't catch the football out of the backfield. He had one that dropped literally right through his hands, and he was wide open and would have gotten extended drive for a first down. And he caught his other one. He did catch his other one. I'll give him that. But he got tackled in space immediately, right away. It's obvious. Trey Sermon is not the lead back. He's not anywhere close to touching lead back status. He didn't do anything in this game to set himself apart as a guy that the Niners want to utilize as a lead running back. Elijah Mitchell is going to be that guy. If he's healthy and good to go, less questions about the running game. Kyle Shanahan's going to at least try to establish the running game, which is great for the O-line. It's great for guys like Michael McGlinchey as well, because that means more play action, another area where Jimmy excels and where he's comfortable.
Yes, and if they can get to the play action game, if they're able to establish this run game, they'll change the defense. And once they do, then they'll be able to move the pocket. And yes, that'll help this offensive line tremendously. Through weeks 1 and 2, they were able to run the football some. Because they were able to do that, they had a lot of success in the play action game. You're right, that's a huge part of the offense. 44% of play action plays leads the league. So,
and how many were there, honestly, in the Green Bay game?
There were some, but once again, you didn't get those linebackers biting on the run.
And they were when they brought those blitzes on play action plays, there was no respect for the running back run. The guys weren't flying downfield and going, oh, look, it's a play action. I probably should. Do I need to account for the running back here? Maybe I need to slow down this pass rush a little bit. No, they were just flying after Jimmy Garoppolo. Hey, you know what? If you hand this off here in space, it is what it is. But I'm going to come hit you now. I'm going to come hit you right in the face.
Yeah, they had no respect either for Trey Sermon.
No.
So you needed somebody that they respect, and unfortunately you haven't got this. So the 49ers are going to have to establish a run game moving forward during the season. That's going to help Jimmy. That would help Trey as well. I mean, if Trey is in, he's going to have to establish a run game, no matter however that looks. Either one of these quarterbacks need a run game. They need a play action game. It doesn't matter. So they need to get that thing going. That is a top priority for San Francisco and Kyle Shanahan. They'll figure it out. They'll come up with some impressive scheme and get it together. But it's a different matchup, and it's a different way they're going to have to attack Seattle, because Seattle plays defense differently. But the 49ers are going to be looking in the mirror a lot. The only thing that's different is there's a defensive end on the other side that wears number 33 that's hovering around the line of scrimmage you have to pay attention to.
Sometimes he starts deep and then comes all the way up, too. It's
and
crazy.
when he's in coverage, he usually gets beat. So that's always a good sign.
It's very true. And he's getting beat by guys whose names aren't George Kittle.
Yeah.
So good matchup there for them to exploit. I'm looking really forward to that. Look, it's going to be very interesting. You got guys coming back this week. Hopefully you have Elijah Mitchell coming back. If you do, less questions, less concerns.
Yes.
Let us know what you think about the reinforcements that are on the way. The Norman update, the K1 update. Are you excited about it? Are you worried about it? How are you feeling? I know we've had some time. You had a little bit of time to digest. Are you panicking? Are you worried? Or we can get Norman back. We can get Elijah Mitchell back. We can get Devontae Harris and Hurst back here. You're feeling a little bit better about this team. And you know what? We lost this game. It wasn't great, but it was close. We cleaned some things up. We can turn this thing around, take it to the Sea Chickens, and be one step closer to claiming the top spot in the NFC West. We want to hear from you. Let us know about it in the comment section down below right now.
Yeah, and if you can win the NFC West games, then you have a very good chance of winning your division. These are the most important games coming up. So, I mean, yeah, you lost one to a tough NFC foe, but you got to win in the NFC West, and as long as you do, I think you feel very comfortable about your position and where you're sitting and what you can do this season. One loss is not going to determine the season. It's going to be a multitude of things. You just got to make sure you keep those things low. What do coaches always preach? Consistency, consistency, consistency. Be consistent, and you'll win more games than you lose.
Unless you're Buddy Kilmer, and then stick to the basics. Stick to the basics. Stick to the basics.
True.
Don't run no dummy-o offense. They can't even run a simple draw play.
Yeah. It's the oop-de-oop.
It's the oop-de-oop for the dummy-os. Don't run that with them. Anyway, that's beside the point. Cutback crew, this is fun. It's good to be further removed from this game as the week progresses. It'll be even better because we'll be even further away from this Green Bay game. We won't think about it. We just focus on Seattle. We focus on the things to come. Make sure you stick around today stick around for tomorrow, because tomorrow, if you're not subscribed, you're not notified, you may miss Quest for the West, which is going to be juicy. It's going to be fun because we're going to have Sam from the Always Compete Seahawks podcast, Evan from the He's on Fire podcast, talking about the NFC West, talking about the Cardinals, talking about the Seahawks, talking about the Niners, talking about the freaking Rams and what they're doing over there. Going to be a spicy conversation, going to be a fun conversation. You're not going to want to miss that.
Yeah, that'll be exciting. I'm looking forward to listening in on that because that should be a good one, because I'm curious what Sam is feeling and if Evan is over the moon about his Arizona Cardinals coming back and taking care of business against Jacksonville. The NFC West is very spicy, so that show should be good all year long. I'm definitely looking forward to all that. Of course, there'll be content all week coming up, every single day. So pay attention if you want to get some more content. And if you have some ideas or things you want to hear from us, go ahead and leave them in the comment section, and we'll see what's up. Sometimes you could be the one that causes a episode to happen.
It's very true. It's very accurate, and make sure you do that. It's been a lot of fun. It's a good episode. Got still more stuff for you on the way, stuff over on Patreon as well. Don't miss all 22 film breakdowns. This one this week is going to be hard to watch and also fun to watch because a lot of insight going to get divulged in that. So we'll see you over there. And until the next one here on YouTube and traditional podcast platforms, stay safe.
Remember, the right way
is always the 49ers way.